Here and Now, the program featuring the news and interests of the African American community. Here's your host, Sandra Bookman.
Coming up, we are continuing to celebrate Black History Month with a closer look at athletes of color, breaking barriers and reshaping the world of sports. We're sitting down with the granddaughter of Jackie Robinson, the first African American to play Major League Baseball. Why his legacy is about so much more than just the game. We'll also introduce you to Diversify Ice, the foundation dedicated to expanding access for Black figure skaters, and honoring the greatest, the new commemorative stamp featuring boxing champ Muhammad Ali. That's all ahead on Here and Now. As we mark Black History Month, we are shining a spotlight on African Americans who have excelled in the world of sports and broken racial barriers. Jackie Robinson leads that list. He became the first African American to play Major League Baseball. In 1947, he started at first base for the then Brooklyn Dodgers. Robinson was what you might call a true agent of change, active in the civil rights movement and a close ally to Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. It is our pleasure to welcome Jackie Robinson's granddaughter and a board member of the Jackie Robinson Foundation, Sonia Pankey Robinson. Thank you so much for sitting down with us today.
It's a pleasure to be here.
You say the name Jackie Robinson and you can't help but smile and be proud. I did not know, though, about the connection with Dr. King.
Yes.
And maybe that's my ignorance. Talk to us a little bit about that.
So post-baseball, Jackie Robinson obviously became involved in the civil rights movement. And there were many things that were happening in the country at the time that, there was a calling, obviously, to respond to things that were happening in the country. One of the things was, one of the bombings that had taken place in one of the churches, and my grandfather and Martin Luther King came together with that cause in particular and became friends from there.
How old were you when you realized who your grandpa was?
Wow. When you grow up with your grandparents, you never realize who they are because he wasn't, he wasn't a sports icon. He was my grandfather. I think when I really realized his fame and the iconic nature of who he was, I think I was probably like a teenager when it really started to hit me.
When you thought about it.
When I really thought about it, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Source of pride?
Oh my God.
Even then?
Immense pride because, well, first of all, growing up close to my grandmother, I had heard about my grandfather and what he'd done my entire life. But I think the pride came in when you start to talk to other people and they start to tell their stories about Jackie Robinson, how he impacted their lives, and just the pride they had about who he was.
Now, you're the oldest of 10.
I am the oldest of 10, correct. I am Jackie Jr.'s only child, and I am the eldest of the Robinson family of grandchildren.
Yeah. You're active in the foundation because it's important to you to keep that legacy alive. Talk to me about why that is important.
I'm involved with the foundation because the mission. It was my grandmother's vision to open the Jackie Robinson Foundation, focusing on higher education. It's a way to continue my grandfather's legacy through the next generation and them understanding the importance of education, mentorship, and giving back to society. So for me, at this point in my life and in knowing the importance of that, to stay connected to that, to make sure that the values that we know are important to us are carried through, and also to be connected, to see people and to have real conversations about what he did.
And also, we talk a lot here about how we've moved from our old home, the ABC home on Manhattan's Upper West Side. We moved closer to Lower Manhattan. We're in Soho. We are just down the street from the Jackie Robinson Museum, which, of course, your grandmother, who is a force,
she's a force
of her own. She is now 103.
She's 103, doing well. Still, running the show, but she is doing very well.
And that museum was important to her.
It was her vision. I would say my grandmother is one of the original visionaries, and I think I get my inspiration definitely from her because she was always planning and thinking ahead, and she just had this idea where, you have people come in having these conversations around history, around archives, and storytelling. And that's the perfect place for people to come together to have conversations that you wouldn't normally have. You have them when you're walking around the floor of the Jackie Robinson Museum.
Yeah, and one of the things that I loved, where the kids come in, it's like a story time.
It's story time.
Yeah,
story.
It is,
right? Yeah, it's story time.
I'm saying it right.
Yes.
And they come in because literacy is very important to your grandmother. And the museum has made that part of its calling.
Absolutely. And I think story time is important. It's because you bring these children in and they sit together and they listen and they learn. They learn about who Jackie Robinson was, but they also learn about, being good citizens, and it's an important conversation to have with them.
I want to circle back to something I asked you first when I asked you, when did you know kind of when did it become apparent who your grandfather was to the rest of us? What was he like as a grandfather? I mean, to us, he's Jackie Robinson. He's on a pedestal. He's number 42, almost godlike. Yeah. But to you, he was like Papa.
He was Grandpa. He was Grandpa. My grandfather lived a short life, as you know. Sure. So I only knew him up to a certain point in my early years. But the impact that your grandparents have on you and the memories that you have, I don't have tons of memories, but I have some special ones that are important to me because of the person he was and the grandfather he was. Whether it was coming to get me to spend time with them on the weekends, because I certainly spent almost every weekend with my grandparents. Just like larger than life, he's a big guy. Both my grandparents are big guys, but they're so influential in the family because you saw how the family, when you have a strong matriarch, you see it and you know it and you feel it, but you're a child and you don't understand it. But what we saw was something that was much larger than that I knew.
He carried himself like the man he was.
Like a man he was.
I mean, I think, we say baseball. Of course, he was Rookie of the Year in 1947, 6 World Series, numbers been retired all across Major League Baseball. Started a bank at a time when African Americans were not doing that. They couldn't even go into a bank and get what they needed.
Absolutely.
Those are the things that's all part of his legacy, and I think sometimes we forget about all those things, that his activism in the civil rights movement, which we've talked about.
That's right.
Do you feel almost compelled? You got to keep those things going.
Yes.
In your own way.
Absolutely. I think, what's important is having a relevance of the story for today's consumer market children's society. And I think what we're trying to do is to contemporize it and tell stories in a way that people can relate to. In 53 years and what he did, I say it's a blueprint in many ways. And it's a story that we want told in a different way so that people and children can understand his impact on society.
Yeah, and I suppose not just his impact in society, but also his impact on what their own futures might be, the possibilities.
The possibilities, right, and seeing themselves in him and what can be versus what is.
Yeah. JackieRobinson.org, that is the foundation.
That is the foundation.
JackieRobinsonMuseum.org, that's the museum. And I suggest that you go to those websites, support both, and please give us our best to your grandmother.
Absolutely, I sure will. Thank you.
You've got those genes, don't you?
Yeah, a little bit. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
It's a pleasure.
We will be right back. When we come back, the organization leading the effort to diversify ice skating. Stay with us. Since the 1930s, black figure skaters have competed in winter sports in the U.S. and abroad. But still today, the percentage of African Americans participating in the sport remains low. Affordability and access, the key challenges. Diversify Ice is the only black-owned foundation dedicated to changing that. Joining us today is its founder, Joel Savory, along with Team USA junior ice dancer, Anna L. Quevy. Thank you both for being with us this afternoon.
So we're having it.
I see you looking at me, Anna, because I said your name properly. It is so nice to meet both of you. Look, the Winter Olympics are going on, so I guess you guys are having a ball watching some of that competition. And Joel, I want to ask you, you is it proper to say you were an ice skater or you are an ice skater?
I think I'm still an ice skater. I think once you have skated, you are always an ice skater. It's in your every way that you think and move. So yes, I've skated since I was 14 years old, and today I'm on the ice coaching, managing Diversify Ice, getting more kids into the sport. So I still think of myself as a skater today.
Yes, and is it proper to say ice skater, figure skater, or one the same?
Yeah, so it could be every figure skater is an ice skater.
Okay, but every ice skater ain't a figure skater.
That's correct. So I did figure skating. So I did all the jumps and spins. I also did a little bit of pairs. I also did a little bit of ice hockey too. But my focus was, of course, figure skating. And I love to jump. I love to spin. I love to perform. And I love getting more kids to do the exact same thing.
Yeah, and so I guess that's why you started this foundation, to make sure that you could get more kids like Anna L. on the ice.
Absolutely. When I started ice skating, I didn't really know that ice skating really existed where I lived. I grew up in Miami, Florida. So that is a place, it's a sunshine state. You don't think of going to an ice rink. You think about going to the beach to sort of cool down and get into the cool water. So when I got an honor roll ticket, for getting on the honor roll, doing well in school, they gave me a ticket to pizza, bowling, and figure skating. And I said, Mom, you got to get me to this ice rink because I deserve it. I got on the honor roll. And she was a little bit hesitant, but she said, you know what, you deserved it. You got an honor roll. We'll take you there.
Yeah.
And immediately I got out there and just tried to do everything that I saw people do on TV. I just tried to dance and jump and spin. And the next thing you know, a whole crowd of kids was centered around me, just kind of clapping and cheering me on. And a woman came over and she said, wow, you're really good. How long have you been doing this? And I said, it's my very first day.
Oh, my goodness.
And she said, you have a real talent. I have to teach you. And that's how I got into it.
Yeah. And I understand your brother is a figure skater as well.
Absolutely. My brother also figure skates, and he really followed in my footsteps. When he saw me skating, he wanted to get out there. My mom said, no, I can only afford one of you guys, barely. But he was so persistent. He used to throw baby powder on the tile floor to make a slippery surface. Name's Emmanuel Savory. And when she took that away, he was even more persistent. He took the mopping water and threw it on the tile floor and made a sliding surface. So I don't know how he knew to do that at such a young age, but he was determined. So my mom said, you know what? I'm sick and tired of my house getting destroyed from you, Emmanuel. We're gonna take you to the ice rink. And he immediately shot out there and was doing the same thing, jumps and spins. You can tell he had immediate talent.
Well, just like you did.
Yeah, I think it runs in our blood. I think the most important part was that we actually had access to know this is something that we can do. So I ended up coaching him to win the junior national championships, and it really kind of changed the trajectory of my life. Coaching more Black and brown kids all over, they started to come to me realizing that I can help them achieve their goals. So that's when I started to see that there was a lot more barriers in the sport.
So Anna, I want to bring you into the conversation. Is it okay if I call you Anna, or should I call you?
No, you can call me Anna.
Phil. Okay, all right. How is it that you started ice skating? And obviously you're pretty good figure skating, SUT, and obviously you're pretty good at it.
So it's kind of like a funny story. So first, Deanne, my partner, he started skating us first. And before he started skating, we used to spend a lot of time together, like every day. Like at one point we went to the same school, so we would spend time at school together sometimes as well. And then kind of when he started to get a little bit more serious about figure skating, his schedule got a little bit more tight and I wasn't able to see him as much. So I was like, hey, I had this idea. I was like, what about I just start figure skating so we can just spend more time together? So at first it was just about spending more time with him, but then I actually started to grow a real passion for it as time went on. And then we became partners and we started progressing, and yeah, that's how I started.
Yeah, and you're 14.
15. Yeah, I just turned 15, so.
Oh, okay. Because I thought you told me you were 15. Or maybe at 14 I made that up. It was in the back of my mind. Or maybe I just decided, oh yeah, she's 14. So you're 15. It's important when you're 15.
Yeah.
If you ask me my age, I'm going to lie about it. And make myself younger than I actually am. How is it that you got involved with Diversify Ice? How the two of you and your partner, got involved with Diversify Ice?
So I think it was around our first junior season, or our first and last novice season we got involved with Diversify Ice. I know my mom was telling me about how they had a program, and then that's kind of just how we got into it. We started communicating with Joel, and I mean, we did this skate raiser, I believe, and it was really fun. I got to meet some of my idols like Star Andrews and Jacob Sanchez, and I knew they were ambassadors as well, and then he asked us to become ambassadors too, so that's kind of how we became.
So I said at the beginning, you're Team USA member. So what does that mean?
Oh, when I became Team USA, I was so excited. I mean, especially when I got this jacket. I wore it like all the time. Like, I just wore it anywhere. I wore it to the kitchen. I wore it to the backyard. I wore it anywhere. I'm so proud to be part of Team USA. But it also means like showing the world that not everyone on the ice has to be one certain color or look a certain way. Like, it's really all about diversifying ice, and being able to have this jacket kind of shows that, like, with hard work, determination, no matter you're black, white, any sort of color, you can make it to the big stage.
And what I know what your focus is to get more young people of color and from neighborhoods that don't necessarily have a certain resource. Like your mom said, I don't know if I can afford the both of you, and that she couldn't deny your talents though, so she ended up figuring it out. But how does Diversify Ice help folks like your mother and others, this young woman and her partner, get out there and really be able to compete on the level that they're competing at?
Absolutely. So, figure skating, number one, is incredibly expensive. Many people are priced out of the sport, like I was. So one of the main things we focus on is sponsorship, ensuring that we're able to bring resources to the skaters, not only financially, but also the equipment. So providing sponsorship, mentorship, we're connecting them with other elite competitive skaters, also previous Olympians and champions such as Ty Babylonia, A. Toy Wilson. We're also going to have Timothy Gable, the previous quad king, and sponsorship, mentorship networks. We're connecting all these skaters together. That is so incredibly important, to see other people and be able to connect with them to understand how to navigate the sport. And all these things come together, especially culminating to one of our huge events, our Skate Razor event. That representation, I think, is so important. You never really understand. You might take it for granted to say, I have a person of color as my coach, or a person of color that you can see on TV looking like you and saying, what, I can do this too.
Because it lets you know. And so before I let you go, I'm going to give you a chance, Anna L. So what you and your partner, what's the move that you guys kill it every time?
Okay, we'll see, because everything has its own little things. Everything's pretty hard, especially as we get through the seasons. But I would say spinning is one of our biggest things. A lot of people compliment us on like how fast we spin. And when we have good twizzle days, people really like our twizzles as well.
All right. You're talking that language.
Yeah.
They have also really incredible lifts as well.
Oh, thank you. Yes.
I can't wait to see you guys in person do your thing. Diversifyice.org. That's your website. Yes. So you've got all the information for anybody that's interested, wants to get involved with what you're doing. Joel, Anna L., I cannot wait to see you competing in the Olympics. We're going to put it out there. All right? Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much.
Up next, commemorating the greatest, the U.S. postage stamp honoring Muhammad Ali. Stay with us. Two words, the greatest. That's all it takes to know who we are talking about. Boxing great Muhammad Ali, but he was so much more than that. And that is why the U.S. Postal Service is honoring his legacy with a commemorative forever stamp. Joining us this afternoon is Lonnie Ali, the widow of Muhammad Ali and vice chair of the Muhammad Ali Center. Also with us, stamp designer and art director of the United States Post Office, Antonio Alcala. Thank you both for being with us this afternoon.
Well, thank you.
Thank you for having us.
I want to start with you, Miss Ali. Just your reaction to having your husband honored in this way.
It's such an honor, actually, for his legacy, and just to have this stamp in circulation now, for it to come to fruition and actually have it unveiled and be out there in the world. It's an honor, not just for me and Muhammad's legacy, for our entire family.
And this is something that is often attributed to him, but I want to ask you about it, that he was once quoted as saying, "I should be a postage stamp because that's the only way I'll ever get licked." Did he actually say that?
He actually did say that, Sandra, but guess what? You don't lick postage stamps anymore, so he still hasn't been licked.
Okay. Well, but
Right?
I think we knew what he meant, right?
Yeah, of course we did. Of course we did. But just the fact that this is a forever stamp, it's which his legacy is forever, enduring, always relevant. It's the perfect, almost the centerpiece of his legacy of having this stamp, because it will endure forever.
Yes, yes, it will, as will his legacy. And I want to bring you in, Antonio, because you sort of had the job of choosing what images of this great man should be placed on a stamp. And I believe we're talking about two different images. How did you choose? How did you select these?
Yeah, it's a huge task and challenge to figure out how to pick the right image to represent such an amazing person in our nation's history. So I went through many different photo resources, looking at images of him when he was young, when he was in mid-career, when he was a little bit older. And where I landed was to show an image of him on the stamp when he is sort of at the prime of his boxing career, but then also in the selvage on the edge, showing him when he was more in his humanitarian role, of which he made significant contributions.
And so when you go about putting together a stamp like this, it sounds like you really want that stamp to say something about the subject matter.
Absolutely. You know, most people in this country are aware of his enormous accomplishments, 3 times heavyweight boxing champion. He was a witty, smart, entertaining cultural figure. And you want to figure out what is the single image that people will engage with, that'll resonate with them and bring back those wonderful memories for those who remember him, and as a great image that provoked people who are less aware of his legacy to find out more about him.
And Lonnie, so I'm going to ask you, you're happy about the fact that his legacy is out there and it's going to last, it's on a forever stamp. Those images, they speak to you as well?
Well, Muhammad couldn't take a bad picture, right?
As
you said, Sandra, he would have agreed with you. He should have had a book of stamps with all kinds of portraits, all kinds of pictures. Why settle for 2? That's what he would have liked. But I understand the iconic view of Muhammad as that boxer in the with the iconic boxing pose. But I really love the one of him in the pinstripe suit with him, sort of showing him as the activist, the humanitarian. I love that photo.
You know what, to that end, I want to ask you, we all have this feeling, Miss Ali, that we know him, we love him, we like to quote him, we talk about him. And so we all feel like we know all of this because he would let you know what he was thinking and feeling.
Oh,
but
absolutely.
I want to ask you, is there something that about him that we would all be surprised to know or learn?
Well, how about this? He was humble. It's true, really, seriously. He really was. He really was a humble man, but very compassionate, kind person who cared about people, humanity. And that's what I love about this stamp, because it will continue to connect people when they send letters. And I hope they do send letters, not just pay bills with these stamps, to stay connected. He was a humble servant, So I don't know how many people may really agree with me, but it's the truth.
But you really knew him probably better than just about anyone. And I know that the work that you do with the Ali Center there in Kentucky is very important. How are you working there to preserve his legacy beyond the stamp?
Well, the one thing about a legacy, it's not something you want to sit on a shelf, right?
Yeah.
I mean, Muhammad's like the whole reason why this center exists is to not only preserve the legacy, but to advance his legacy, to activate that legacy, mobilize that legacy around the world. So that's what we do here with the center. Not only is it a cultural institution, sort of like a museum where you can actually come and view artifacts of Muhammad, learn more about his life, enjoy some immersive kind of experiences, but we also have a programmatic aspect of the center that we export not only to here in the United States, but are beginning to export it across the world. So.
Now, he passed in 2016, so on Parkinson's disease, and I know there's a Ali Parkinson's Center in Phoenix. Are you active there as well? Because I know that's an important cause. It's near and dear to your heart.
Well, actually, absolutely. Actually, I am a resident of Fairfax Valley, Arizona. So, yeah, and that is such a tribute to him because, Parkinson's sort of, as horrible as it was an opportunity for Muhammad to sort of represent that citizen who is challenged physically as well, who has illnesses. Mm-hmm. He always understood it. He always was empathetic, but he got to represent them too in a different way. Yeah. So, God gives you burdens to carry for a reason. And he was always a person who never questioned why he had it, why me. He did it. He had Parkinson's, but he carried it with grace and dignity and really showed us how you continue to live with purpose.
Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon, both of you. Antonio, stamps are absolutely beautiful, and you'll move on to the next and make somebody else's legacy and family very proud. And we appreciate you, Miss Ali, for taking these few minutes to talk with us this afternoon and help us to pay tribute to your husband, who I wouldn't argue with him, and I don't think anybody else would argue. He certainly was the greatest. Thank you both very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
And thank you all for joining us on Here and Now. If you missed any portion of today's show, you can watch at abc7ny.com/hereandnow, or you can listen to our podcast wherever you subscribe. If you would like to comment or share your story, email us at hereandnow@wabc.com or follow us on Facebook and Instagram. I'm Sandra Bookman. Enjoy the rest of your day.